Therapy roulette, consent event. Trauma disguised as comedy. Therapy roulette, consent event. If you don't have problems, then you're likely repressing shit and you should find a therapist who's not me.
Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Therapy Roulette. I'm Michele Baci, and we're here with Sophie Spiers. She is a comedian, a writer, an actress. I think that's the hierarchy of things she is. She is based in Los Angeles, as am I, and she hosts a weekly open mic at the Comedy Nook, which I have to go check out. I've been meaning to. Sophie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So fun.
It's a pleasure. I always like a girl named Sophie. It's a good name.
Thank you. You know, I found that it's the name of a lot of dogs. It's Oprah Winfrey's dog's name. So, you know,
a successful dog.
A successful dog, exactly. I don't care that I'm a dog as long as I have money.
I mean, that works for me.
Yeah.
Why not?
Truly.
I have a thing about dogs with people names. It's such a trend now.
It is. I know. I'm like, I want to meet a dog named Rupert or like some kind of very traditional name like that. I feel like that's a dog I can respect.
Yeah, a royal dog.
A royal dog, exactly.
That's funny. I feel like it's just a mark that we cannot connect to other humans anymore. We have to transfer it to the dog.
Exactly.
Like, Rupert and Sophie, come over.
I know. And who can blame us, honestly? There are a lot of humans that I don't want to connect to. So I might as well have a dog with a human name.
Yeah, I feel like it's a common problem.
Yeah. I don't have a dog, but if I did, I'd probably name it Rupert.
Yeah, I would want to
decided.
Pick a name not in circulation so you don't get offended like you probably do.
I know. I did hear when I was on vacation, I heard someone yelling, Sophie, Sophie, and it was for the dog. And that was confusing.
Yeah, like what do? You go up to that person and correct them or let it be?
Let it be, I know. As long as people don't accidentally call me Sophia, then I don't care whose name is Sophie. But that's my bigger pet peeve.
It's a much different vibe.
It is. And people are always like, is Sophie short for Sophia? And I'm like, well, they have the same number of letters. So no. It's not. Like, no offense to Sophia's, but Sophia's, I feel like, have poodles and like parents that are artists. And I feel like Sophie's are, I don't know, royal, anywhere from like royal to practical businesswomen. We can be anything.
I think you got to be more down to earth without that fancy A at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about therapy. Are you in therapy? If not, why not?
I am the poster child for therapy, and I am so glad you're having me on this podcast because I will talk about therapy all day long.
Please do, because I think I started it just to like dig into information and be like, what can I learn? Like, I want to be back in psychology classes.
Yes. I never took psychology classes because like my brain was a textbook in and of itself. But I started therapy, God, I guess it was like 3 years now. So probably a year after moving to LA.
Right.
And I have been seeing the same therapist for the whole time. And we went recently just went all remote and we meet once a week. And,
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight. I take my little meds. I have my little meeting with her once a week. It's amazing. She gets me. Her name is Katie. And it's funny, like I know nothing about her life and she knows every painful detail about mine.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of relationship you can only pay for.
It's a professional one.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you ever think about Katie's end of things? Like, does she get overwhelmed knowing everything about you?
Sometimes sometimes like on the Zoom, I'm so hyper aware of what she's doing. So if I see her look down or like look in a different direction, I never say this, but I'm like, is she looking at a text? Like, is she not paying attention to me? Because what I'm saying is so important. And so I wonder if some days she just can't fucking deal with anything. I'm sure we're all human.
Yeah. Like, does she have a notepad or something that she goes to write down?
No, she's never used a notepad. And because I went to a therapist when I first got here who wrote down everything about me on a notepad. And I was like, oh, this is great. Writer to writer. I appreciate that. But Katie, she remembers everything. And sometimes she'll get details slightly off, but like I'll just correct her and the essence of what she knows is correct. And it's
Yeah.
really impressive. Like I don't know how many clients she has, but I feel very special.
It sounds like she's really present.
She is. She's present.
Yeah.
Um
That's
and she
funny.
also yeah, go ahead.
It's funny you started 3 years ago because I think we moved to LA around the same time. Because I think I'm hitting year 4 in October.
Me too.
And I wanted to do therapy so bad when I got here because I just felt so like alone and so in a new
Hmm.
environment. And also it was like trendy, cool to do therapy. So I think
Yeah.
LA was a big impetus for me to be like, go get help.
Right. I know. I always, and my family knows this, I don't blame them for anything, but I think we didn't really come from a therapy household. And so I would like in high school, I now look back and see that I was having panic attacks. But at the time, I just considered them mental breakdowns. And my mom was like, she's quirky, she's emotional, she's very intense. And I'm like, yeah, it's normal, I guess, to lock yourself in your room for a weekend, like crying, having a panic attack about a chorus concert. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
does it have to be that serious? But we didn't have therapy as an option just because it seemed more like a punishment than a thing that we actually, wanted to embrace. I think it was also like a different time. I don't think as many people were talking openly about like mental health and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
The young generation has the better end of it.
yeah, for sure. So then when I moved to LA, I was like I remember I went into a Trader Joe's and I was trying to decide what to get for dinner. And I was on the phone with my mom as if like she was there and could help me decide. And I just started like, I couldn't breathe and I was having a panic attack. And I went into my car and I was like, you just had a attack in an LA Trader Joe's. Like the next logical step is to go to therapy because you've become too LA in all
Yeah.
senses of the word. And so I started, and the rest is history.
And that's so awesome. Like you mentioned maybe 2 therapists, but otherwise, like the one you have with the therapist now, it's been like a pretty long relationship.
Yeah. And I can't imagine. I mean, well, I used to see her in person and I would like rush from work to get to Beverly Hills. And it was always a stressful thing. But I was like, I have to do this because my week doesn't feel complete without it. And she's actually moving. So it's going to be fully remote. But I've actually liked the remote therapy because I really can make it work with my schedule. Like I don't have to forego other things, or leave early or anything. So it's really convenient.
Yeah. I think it definitely helps you like build your schedule a little bit more out and like you don't have to drive to Beverly Hills. It's a huge plus.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
know. Driving to Beverly Hills at 6 o'clock on a weekday is from like Burbank or somewhere like that is not ideal.
They make you pay for parking extra in Beverly Hills. Like
Yes.
nothing is free.
And I was always like accidentally going down one way streets or like, parking in the garage because I was just too lazy to find a meter and paying $40 and then going outside and seeing all these free meters. And I'm like, this is why like the parking enough is a reason to go to therapy.
Yeah. For sure. Like let me deal with the stress of living in Los Angeles by going to
Right,
therapy.
right. By the time I would get to the sessions, I'd be like sweaty and disheveled and sitting in like on her nice suede couch. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I look like a freaky athlete who just finished like a big tournament.
Yeah. Her other clients like have chauffeurs dropping them off and you're like,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Hmm. I
That's
mean, it's
awesome.
not cheap, but like, I don't know. I just kind of decided it was something I was never going to forego. So I'd rather eat beans than like miss my therapy.
Do you pay out of pocket or do you use insurance?
I pay out of pocket, which when I first started with this particular practice, they took my parents' insurance, and I was only 25, I guess. So I was still on their insurance. And then the minute I got my own, it was like, oh, the only insurance we take is what your parents had, and we don't take any other.
Of
It's like,
course.
great. Right. So then I had to go out of pocket, and she did like a sliding scale for me, which is nice. And it's still a lot, but it's, again, it's like an investment that I'd rather make than other things.
It's worth it for you. Plus you've already like invested in her and the therapist.
Right. I cannot imagine starting fresh with someone new and telling them all my shit. Like that to me sounds exhausting.
Yeah, that's the hard part of finding a new therapist. Like I was talking to someone a few months ago, and she was definitely an older lady, but she kept forgetting what I had told her in other sessions. And I was like, if you can't remember anything, like, come on,
I
where
know.
where is this going to go? How am I going to get healed if you can't remember what I do for
Healed. Yeah,
work?
exactly. How are you going to heal me? Fix me.
How am I going to become normal?
Yeah. Isn't that the goal?
Yeah. What was your big fix for the panic attacks? Like how did you approach that?
I think I think a couple things, like obviously I'm a big proponent for medication if you need it. Like that coupled with talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy or any of that, I think is great. Obviously everyone's different, but that felt for me like I was talking about a friend with this the other day. It was like when I started taking medication, I was like, oh, is this how normal people feel? Like, is this how they go through a day feeling? Because this feels like I'm on cloud nine. Um, and that definitely took some of the weight off of my anxiety and like OCD and things. And then just through the talk therapy, kind of talking about, okay, when you get in these like situations and you feel something coming on, how can you in your own brain and like body, how can you in your body try to like calm yourself down?
Mhm.
And I like my therapist because she does a lot of like, okay, but how does that make you feel in your body? And so it makes you like come outside of your brain for a minute and be like, okay, when I make this statement, I feel this in my chest or I feel this in my stomach. So I think that's helpful because it like refocuses you. And
Yeah.
I also, before, I felt like my default was to just put in no thought to like what was happening and to just start like crying and complaining and calling my mom at like all hours of the day. So now I try to take a minute before I do that, and I don't have to do it as much anymore. I mean, hardly at all anymore.
That's good. I know, like, I think I've definitely had a few panic attacks, like, in my life. And I
Yeah.
feel like I would always, like, shut myself in an actual room or behind a door and just deal with
Hmm.
it behind a door. But, like, I felt like, overwhelmed in that moment. Like, my brain was,
Yeah.
like, outside my body. And I was like, what do I do? So it's good to know, like, doing that body scan and being like, how do I actually feel and why? Like, maybe
Right.
taking that step outside of yourself to be like, what's going on?
Right. And even when you're feeling good things too, like we talk about, if I tell her something good that's happening, she'll say, okay, and where do you feel that good feeling? And it's like, oh, you're right. Not everything has to come from my brain. It can be in my body too. And that's a good reminder to my brain because my brain just like fuck with me all day long. So it's like, no, there are other things at play here besides you, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, your body's actually way more than your brain.
Yeah, right.
It's good to
Luckily.
remember.
Yeah.
What's like what's a really like great thing about Katie, like that she does that you appreciate?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. I think I really like the way she reminds me that um I am at the center of all of this. So like whenever I'm saying, "Oh, I didn't know what to do about this and I asked these people for their advice," that's all fine and good. That's something I'm working on is like going into looking into myself first before asking people for advice. And she always reminds me this. She's like, "Okay, so and so said this, so and so said that, but it sounds like you weren't satisfied with what they said. So like why did you feel the need to ask them? Because it sounds like you already know what you wanted to do." And so I really like how she always brings it back to me, which is like me. But that is the point of therapy. Like I tell people, like I was telling my mom the other day because she was telling me, if you go to therapy, do they give you, do they say, oh, this person should be doing this better or this person should be doing this better? And I
Yeah.
said, no, they don't like correct the people in your life. They tell you how to better deal with them.
Your
And
mom is
like,
like fishing for gossip.
exactly, right. And I'm like, no, we're not sitting there saying you're doing things wrong. I'm saying, this is what I feel. And Katie's reminding me to focus on how I feel and like
Yeah.
what I know and my gut reactions and all of that. And so she constantly brings it back to that, which is helpful because otherwise I'll get bogged down in like, what should I do? What should I have done? All that stuff.
Right. I feel like people who might not people who haven't really done a lot of therapy or not at all, like they don't realize how unprescriptive it is. Like
Yeah.
the therapist is not there to tell you what to do at all. They're supposed to dig it out of you so you come to the realization.
Right. Which is so brilliant because, you know, I'll leave a lot of sessions and I'll be like, oh, well, Katie told me I should do this. Just because that's easier than explaining to someone, Katie told me to look within myself. And then I somehow decided I needed to do this. Because really she's asking the right questions and making me think in a way that I've gotten better, but I still have trouble thinking that way on my own. Like I think I need someone who I consider to be an expert to like pull the questions out of me.
Yeah, and have that unbiased person to talk to, just because like you don't really get that anywhere else.
Right. At all, especially because like she knows by now, she knows me, she knows my family, and I come from a very loud, opinionated family, and because I'm someone who's constantly asking for advice, I get a lot of advice, and then I take that advice, and I'm like, I'm mad at everyone. Why would they tell me all of this? And it's like, well, Sophie, you went into the lion's den asking for advice, and you came out with advice, and you know, if you didn't want it, you shouldn't have asked. So
yeah, if we circle back to the beginning, it was you, Sophie.
Yeah, exactly.
You started it.
Right. Basically, therapy is her reminding me that I cause a lot of my own problems and then helping me fix problems I caused.
Yeah, which is great because like otherwise you would be such a zigzag all over the place, like running around with no head on your brain on your shoulders.
Exactly. Which is how I feel.
Same. Does your life in LA help you like process mental health and feel more mentally sound, like doing acting, writing, comedy?
Yeah, I would say, I think life in LA in general, like the lifestyle helps me process mental health because I think my mental health gets trickiest when I don't have enough stimulation and enough stuff that I'm doing and involved in. And so, you know, no shade to home and where I grew up, and I love my home, my family, but going back to the suburbs, I know that 1-2 weeks fine, but a few weeks after that I might start to feel like more anxious and more in my own head. And my lifestyle in LA is just a lot busier and it's a lot more interactive, and it doesn't allow for time for me to like spend in my own head.
You don't have that idle time.
Exactly. So that's a good thing. And then also the comedy is great for mental health because, I mean, I guess good and bad, but it's like, you know, you could get on stage and totally bomb, but I don't actually find that affects my mental health because you know that, I mean, sometimes you're like, oh, I did shitty, I wish I had done well, but you also know every time you do shitty, there's another time that you're going to be doing well. So like,
yeah, like
just
hopefully
look forward to that.
You've learned that the shittiness does not stay. Like hopefully it happens, but like everything happens. So
totally.
Learn to roll
it's
with
momentary. It. Yeah. And there's always someone who's been shittier than you. So like,
oh, definitely.
Remember that. Yeah.
There's a surplus of comics who have no business doing it.
Totally. I mean, that's what I remind myself about everything. Cause I'm like,
yeah.
So many people out here are trying to be the best. And you have to remind yourself what a large percentage are not even the anything. Like that sounds so mean, but like
even I've seen a couple professional comedy shows recently, and like the less famous people who are on stage with the famous people, I'm like, who are these guys? They're like jokesters. They have they got nothing for them, and they're still like opening for the big names. So
yeah,
honestly,
I don't know.
Keep putting yourself out there, and it will work out.
Yeah, that's my attitude too. And also like I never act like, I mean, there may be times where I get anxious and I think, oh, I see so and so doing this. Should I be doing that? Like, that's a huge thing I struggle with. But I also, in my heart of hearts, never think, oh, all these people are better than me. I mean, like, talk about an ego. Like, I think every comic has to have some kind of ego. Like, that's what makes us do what we do.
And that's the whole magic of it. It's the confidence.
Right. And I'm like, I'm not going to look around and be like, oh, I'm bowing down to all these people doing these things. It's like, no, you just have to do what you're doing. And that can be hard to remember, but.
Yeah. I think in my better days, I have that feeling too, where I'm like, oh no, I'm the best one here. Like none of these people deserve to be here too. Yeah. Which is, you know, when you say it out loud, it's terrible, but it's also what you need to survive in Hollywood.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Even if you don't actually believe it, you have to just say it until you do believe it, because that is healthier.
By overanalyzing the people around me, I could find their flaws.
Exactly. And I don't think, finding people's flaws, I think we can all support people while still knowing their flaws and making ourselves feel better. So
Yeah, honestly, I just admire the work ethic. Like they showed up, they're practicing, they're doing mics, they're
yeah,
doing shows. Like good for them. I could be doing the same.
right. That's it. I mean, that's a huge thing. There are people that I see that are doing a lot, and that's when I get um, equal parts stressed about like failing at everything and motivated to do more.
Yeah.
So, I think if I didn't have that like if I didn't have that trigger, I might not be as motivated.
What do you do? Like, what's your daily routine? Do you do comedy writing daily, or like, do you still have a day job?
I still have a day job. I'm a freelance writer right now,
Oh, nice.
which has been great. I mean, I was working for Drunk History pre-pandemic, and that was amazing. And then, we got canceled, and so I was really like, what can I do during the day in this totally like digital remote world that will still pay the bills? And then because comedy wasn't an option. And
Mhm.
so, and comedy also isn't an option for paying the bills right now.
No. I know I
But
was explaining the podcast today, and I was like, it's kind of like what comedy used to be. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
comedy's like still finding its way back into my life.
right, same. And I started doing the freelance writing, and that's been great because then in the afternoons or evenings I can do open mics, shows, and whatever. I mean, I'm not doing one every night, but I do try to, like, I don't put too much pressure on myself to write new stuff every day because, I mean, a lot of writers, like, I think it just, you either feel it or you don't. So if I really don't feel like it, nothing I produce is going to be great. So I might as well wait for a day when I do feel like it and write, 10 new jokes and work on those, than like force myself to do something every day. But
Yeah.
I do
It,
also get a lot of thoughts at night, and I'll write them down on my notes on my phone, and I'll wake up and they'll be like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr," like they don't make sense, or sometimes they do, and they're great. So,
yeah, the Notes app is definitely it's a safe haven for all my crazy ideas.
yeah, same. I mean, I look at that app sometimes just for fun because I've written like, "Mom who loves zebras," and you're like, "What the hell does that mean?"
Like maybe that's a part of me.
Right, exactly. Coming out in the night.
Yeah. That's funny. The Notes app, I think, just gives me full anxiety now because it's like there's way too many notes. Like it's way far gone what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I started it as like a place to have my actual formed jokes, and now it's just a scribble pad, and I am like, which is no surprise. I'm not really an organized person, so it just looks like me.
Yeah. Tell me about your YouTube channel because I've seen like some of your content that you've been putting out in the past year. How do you shoot content? Do you have like a regular schedule or is it just like whatever you feel like it?
That's also just kind of whenever I feel like it. I get like talking about what I feel in my body. I get like a buzz feeling, and I'm like, oh, this is funny. I feel like I want to explore this, do something with this, and I'll just go and shoot it and like edit it together and put it out there. And I didn't ever do that until pandemic hit and I had free time, and I had never considered myself like someone who put stuff up on Instagram, but I started because I was like, why not? And
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I've seen a lot of people really take off in the last year with videos and stuff, and it's so inspiring because I'm like, you never know what is going to be the thing that people love. But, I make myself laugh. So I'm like, that's I think that's what matters.
Yeah. And it's a lot of like short videos too, which is
Yeah,
what people are really digesting like the most.
right. I started out with I was like, oh, I can't cut this, I can't cut this, and I'd have these like minute and a half videos, and I go back now and I'm like, ew, no one wants to watch a video that long. That's like it's like a sermon.
A
So
minute and a half.
yeah, a full minute and a half. So I started like really cutting myself down to a minute at the most. Also so that you can, when you post on Instagram, you can like see how many views you're getting and all of that. I just feel like it's more helpful with that way. And I
Mhm.
love Instagram. Like I post stuff on TikTok, but I'm not really a big TikTok gal. So I'm still chugging away on the Insta. And then I put stuff on
Yeah.
YouTube too.
TikTok is still the sketchiest, so
Yeah,
you
I
can
know.
stay away.
Yeah, I can stay away. I just always get on there and I'm like, I don't feel like this is for me. I'm not. Sometimes I enjoy it, but it's just not my thing.
I feel like it's a fad and I just don't have time for it. Like maybe someday, who knows?
Right. I know. Well, I have a friend who worked for TikTok, and she was, a couple of years ago, she was like, Sophie, you have to get on TikTok. It's going to blow up. And I'm like, ugh, the last thing I need is another dumb app that doesn't go anywhere. I know, lo and behold, I mean,
It's
here
the
we
number
are.
one app in America,
Exactly.
but also stealing your information. So
Right. Yeah.
who knows?
Who knows? All they're going to get is videos of me in wigs and like talking about boobs. So good luck to them.
Yeah, it's probably not the most helpful to like steal your identity, but
Right.
it's still TikTok. Do you have a favorite character that you do or that you've done before?
um, oh, so I started doing this one celebrity in LA during quarantine, and it was just like a parody of what a celebrity might be focused on during a pandemic. And I did one video a few weeks ago that I really liked that was like, I felt, yes, I was using the title of celebrity, but I just feel like this is a lot of people's attitudes, which was like, do you know when like when something affects everyone a lot, but it doesn't affect you at all? Like that was this pandemic for me, and just making all these statements about like the effect of the pandemic, but really it didn't affect you at all. Um, that makes me laugh. And then, I mean, I don't want to broadcast this because I feel now like embarrassed by it, but before we knew what was happening with Britney Spears, I was doing an impression of her.
Yeah, wasn't that one of your early things you were
Yeah,
doing? Yeah.
one of my early things, just because I was doing a podcast with a friend and all of a sudden I had this impression come out and it was like, hey, you guys, I want to show you a little bit of my quarantine routine. And it was like a natural Britney accent. And so I started working on it, and those videos got a lot of views, but then things started to get a little dicier with her. And I was like, oh, I want to be a supporter and not like making fun of her. So, I mean, not
Yeah.
that I was making fun of her, but I could see people seeing it that way.
We didn't have all the information yet. The documentary wasn't released.
Exactly. Exactly.
But you do like you listen to Britney's social media stuff, her court hearing, and she does sound like a character. So
She does, right.
makes
And it was
sense.
mostly the voice that I thought was funny. Whatever she wants to do, more power to her. Like she can twirl around and dance and put on outfits. Good for her. But if a comic can do a voice, then a comic's going to do a voice. And like,
Yeah,
that was the premise.
I won't hold it against you.
Thank you.
I still have to watch the documentary. I've been like working up to it. I'm like, am I in a mentally good place? No, we'll put it
No,
off.
I know. I had trouble with the documentary because I felt like I've seen this trend in a lot of documentaries, which is where they use like online experts, which are really like online sleuths, which are really just people who love the internet. They're
Yeah.
using them as like actual sources of information. And I'm like, it just seems irresponsible from like a journalism point of view
Yeah,
that you
like
could make a documentary about Britney and someone who doesn't know Britney and just knows her internet presence could talk like an expert. I'm like, I don't know.
it's not a journalist, it's just someone with a Twitter account.
Yeah, like that that documentary. Oh God, it was either Cecil Hotel or Don't Fuck with Cats, and someone
I
was
haven't
literally.
seen either of them.
Oh my God, I recommend it because they're both ridiculous and entertaining. But someone was literally listed and credited as a what was it, internet sleuth, and I was like, that is just someone who discovered YouTube early on and then went ham with it. Like that's not an actual job.
Can that just be anybody with like Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I'm an internet sleuth. Like you've got a question about J-Lo and Ben Affleck, like I'm there. I've got the answers.
Yeah.
We're all internet sleuths.
You want to check someone's criminal record? I got it right here. Like
Exactly.
it's not that hard.
No.
That's crazy. I'll watch it soon. We'll talk about it in real life soon.
Oh, definitely.
Do you have any advice for back to therapy, like someone who wants to seek out therapy or maybe they know they need meds and like how do they start that process when it's so like intimidating?
Honestly, come to me. I love finding people therapists. That's a good, I think either you reach a point where you just want someone to help you or you reach a point where you feel willing to take the risk. And I think it's just finding like it can feel daunting to look online and see all these options and not know who's going to work for you. And that's just part of the process. Like it's like dating kind of, you don't know if someone's going to be a good fit, but you should try because otherwise you're not going to have the opportunity. So
Yeah.
I use Psychology Today actually, which is how I found my psychiatrist and therapist. And you can filter it by like who, um, if you want male or female, what issues you want to deal with. And then I really just like would go to their websites and look at their descriptions and see what spoke to me. I
Mm.
feel like you get a vibe off of those. Um, and I
Did
also
you
think,
did you
yeah,
message a few of them, or just the first one worked out?
I messaged a couple. One woman didn't pick up her phone ever, so I was like, this is not a good sign. Um, and then I messaged this company and they got back to me or this practice, and they got back to me quickly and were so professional, and I felt like I was in good hands. So that's why I kept going.
Nice.
Um, I also think people get afraid of like the logistics. People get overwhelmed by logistics of having to call someone, having to admit to wanting therapy. It seems like a big deal. And I don't have an answer to that other than like get over it because it'll be really helpful. And on the
Yeah.
other side, you won't care that you had to make a call and like schedule an appointment. You'll be glad that you did.
Yeah, just start.
Just start. Exactly. Um,
Especially
and
like the appointment thing. Like, can I fit an appointment into my week? It's like, well,
yeah,
try it.
right. If you can fit 7 panic attacks into your week, then you can fit an appointment. Like,
Yeah, you'll probably get more done with that one appointment.
exactly. Right. You might limit it to 3 a week and then you'll really be cooking.
Yeah. It's like, how many depression cries can I have in a week? I think I've got my limit. So
Yeah, right. And
maybe
that was
it's
the
time.
thing. Yeah, I was like, I'm tired of doing this all the time. If I could just have an appointment a week, and I didn't know if it would work. I mean, I was skeptical. I sound like a contestant on The Bachelor. Like I didn't know. I was skeptical going into this, but I could just feel it. Like I got there and I wanted to tell someone what was on my mind, and I didn't want to tell a friend or family. I wanted to tell a stranger who'd be able to look at me and be like, "I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Let's try to deal with it."
Yeah, like your friend or family, you know them too well. So whatever
Yeah.
their response is, as good intentions as they may have, it's like you're never gonna receive it the way you would from a therapist who's like, this person doesn't know you. Like they're not trying to placate you or lie to
Right.
you, or they're not trying to make themselves feel better. It's like this is someone doing their job, and
Right.
it's totally different.
Like there's nothing worse than crying and like needing someone to help you and then they start crying too and you're like, okay, this is just a huge mess.
Yeah, you stole my moment.
Right, exactly. Stealing my thunder. So, and also I think with a stranger you're better behaved. Like you can't blame them. Um,
Yeah,
you
and you're
really
more
just have to,
focused. You want to get
yeah.
that hour's worth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm the type of person who finishes a meal because she paid for it, even if she's not hungry. So like I get that hour's worth.
Oh yeah, I just ate a mediocre pumpkin pie because
Yeah.
I brought it home. It was gonna
An
be
August pumpkin
in my
pie.
stomach. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was from a bakery. I don't know how they made it.
that sounds delicious. I love pumpkin pie.
It wasn't bad as a leftover pie.
That's good.
Yeah,
That
it
is
turned
good.
out okay.
I ate some old soup yesterday because I got back from vacation and hadn't gone to the grocery store. And I found it in my cabinet and I ate stale crackers with it. And I was like, the limits that I will go to not have to walk across the street to Trader Joe's are astounding.
You're that close to Trader Joe's in
I'm
Sitco.
literally like, I can see it from my house. Yeah,
That's funny.
I
It's
made it eventually.
because you're getting back from the East Coast. You're like, I don't need to make another journey to the store.
Exactly.
Just limit that.
Right. Totally.
Okay, well, I think we can move on to the roulette wheel.
Okay.
So normally
Look
I
at it.
just here it is. Normally I
So
just
cute.
give it a spin, and then you could tell me your response to something. I have been wanting to ask every guest: is there anything you want to vent about? Is anything really pissing you off, or you want to like ramble for a minute in your life? Anything that comes to mind?
Um, yes. It's happening to me right. I mean, where do I even start? But one thing I want to vent about, it's very personal to me, and it's how much I sweat, which like I talk about it all day long. Like I am always hot. And I literally I just had the guy who works in my building, the maintenance man, come and look at my air conditioner for the second time because I'm like, I swear it's not working. It's always hot in this room. And he's like, I measured it with thermometer, it's the same temperature as the rest of the room. And I'm like, oh my God, I am just like a menopausal woman and I don't know what to do about it. It's alarming. And I hear like my roommate and I think 50% of our conversation throughout the day is, oh my God, I'm sweating. Ugh, I'm sweating. I'm so sweaty right now. I'm boiling.
But the roommate's also sweating?
She's also sweating. So we're both
Okay.
just like two sweaty people complaining about being sweaty. But I really feel like I'm sweatier.
Yeah. I guess you guys need like a lot of fans, maybe a pool.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to is like I need a house on a cliff with a pool. And people like bathing me in ice chips and then maybe I'll be okay.
I need a kitchen stock to Trader Joe's so I don't have to go.
Yeah, yeah, right. Maybe if I didn't have to shop, I wouldn't be such a sweaty mess.
That's funny. Thank you for venting and sharing that with
Yes,
us.
thank you for making it a safe space.
Of course, I try. So let's give you a spin. If you could choose a superpower, what would you choose and why?
Oh my God. I would actually choose the ability to fly
Ooh.
because I have these dreams. My dad and I both have them. We're the only ones in our family. We're connected through them. I dream that I'm flying and I can feel it so vividly. I feel it in my stomach and I just like take off with my arms and I'm flapping and I'm flying above the clouds. And it's just like whenever I need to get out of any situation or I want to have fun, I'm just flying. And I'm like, how great would that be if I could just like if I were at a bar and some guy was boring me talking about like his love of stocks, I would just be like ta ta and flutter my wings and fly away.
As a person though, not as a bird.
Right, as a person. No, I don't want to be a bird. They smell weird, but I would like to fly.
Yeah, I would just like to keep my human sweat and fly.
Right. Right, just human sweat. I
That's
also
a pretty
like
good one.
I don't want the power to be able to poop on people because that's a big power and I think I would abuse it.
Yeah, it might be hard to control once you get it.
Oh yeah, if you could, I would.
Yeah. Like how many enemies do I have? I could make some.
I could make a lot, yeah. But then people think that it's good luck, so you have to be careful because I don't want the wrong people thinking I'm wishing them luck.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Got to target them carefully. I think
Exactly.
we have time for another.
Okay, awesome.
Ooh, what have you been obsessed with?
Oh, ever or lately?
Whatever comes to mind.
Because I'm like, oh, I was obsessed with one guy senior year of high school. But okay, lately,
But does he deserve the attention? Probably
no,
not.
he doesn't, and that's why I'm not going to discuss. um, what have I been obsessed with? Oh my God, I feel like I'm obsessed with so. Okay, this isn't a new thing for me, but as of late, anytime that I want to treat myself to anything, I have been going to TJ Maxx or Marshalls.
Ooh, that's a good
Um,
one.
yeah, and I have always been obsessed because like my mother raised us to love going to Marshalls and TJ Maxx, and like I to get to the ones near me, it's up by the Grove. It's like kind of it's so close, but it's like an annoying parking lot and whatever. But if I'm in a mood or I want to celebrate something, I just am like I'm going to TJ Maxx, and like a middle aged like mother of 12.
Yeah,
And I went this
I'm like a
weekend.
little worried about you with the menopause and the TJ Maxx.
I know. I'm like way too settled in my midlife crisis with 28 years old. But I love TJ's and I was there Sunday and I spent a ton of money and I was like, you know what? I don't even feel bad because I needed these loofahs and like this fur coat, even though it's August.
Yeah, and you're bargain hunting. I mean, no one else was gonna buy that fur coat.
Right. And like 50 makeup products that are only $3.99 each feels a lot better than buying like three $50 makeup products. So
You're not supporting the big brands. You're not
yeah,
supporting Kylie Jenner. It's TJ Maxx.
exactly. It's
That's good.
something cheaper. It's keeping me humble.
I like that obsession.
Yeah,
It keeps you grounded. It ties you to your roots.
exactly. I could be a millionaire and I guarantee I would still do all my shopping at those two places. And it's funny because like I have two sisters, but my youngest sister is a fashionista, obsessed with big brands and like true art, style and whatever. And she will know if Santa Claus brings her a gift that's from one of those places, even though if it has no tag, no other identifier. She's like, I know this from TJ Maxx. I don't want it. But like My parents know that they can give me all gifts from TJ Maxx and I'll be over the moon about it.
That's funny. The differences in siblings.
Right. It's also like an oldest versus youngest situation, I think.
Probably. She gets more.
Yeah.
She's the youngest.
Exactly. And I am fine with the cheap things from TJ's that, you know, keep me humble.
Are you the oldest sibling?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And then I have a sister 3 years younger and then a sister 6 years younger.
Okay. I'm also the oldest with 2 sisters and a brother.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
I think I'm the scrappiest of us all, but who knows?
Yeah. Oh, scrappy. I like that.
Yeah, you gotta be, because you're the first one in the bunch. You gotta survive.
Totally. I always joke with my mom. I'm like, oh, I've already raised 2 kids. Like, I don't have time.
I feel like I raised 3.
I know. Even
That's
though
funny.
I give my parents full credit, I do feel like we had a hand. I
Yeah,
don't know about you, but I did.
I was the third parent for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Sophie, this has been so nice. Please tell us where to find you online. Anything you'd like to promote?
I would like to promote myself.
Please do.
Thank you. Check out my Instagram. It's at Sophie Spiers Comedy. And Spiers is Spiers. I know that's like, I feel like the story of my life is people confused about my name. So as Michele said, if you go to my bio, you'll see that it's Spiers, bitch.
Yeah, it's like you gotta throw in the word pie somehow. Like it's the word pie in there.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah. Pie. Yeah.
RS.
RS.
Yeah, it's not the easiest, but I would remember it.
Exactly. Well, you like pie, so I know my audience.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thanks, Sophie. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.